Hello and welcome to the A-Form Show. My name is Alan George and thank you very much for tuning in. Each week, we sit across from thought leaders and change makers in the architecture and design space of the GCC. We dive deep into their experiences, both professionally and personally, and share their valuable insight as to what makes them tick. Our goal is to add value to your day and help you navigate your own personal creative journey. Finally, the opinions and the views of the guest speakers are that of their own. They do not necessarily represent the views and the opinions of the show or the host. Before we get into the show, we'd love to give a big shout out to our friends at Inscape Education Management, based right here out of Dubai Design District. Inscape is a design training institute specializing in skill training specifically for the design and creative professions. They currently offer short courses in architecture, fashion, interior design, and graphics design. Inscape's unique training style is aimed at training individuals through design thinking methodologies, enabling them to process and generate real-life solutions with confidence. If you're a working professional, they got you covered too. In addition to the daytime courses that they have running, there are courses tailor-made for you with evening sessions. They provide working professionals with an opportunity to acquire new skills when it suits them. In a nutshell, you can earn while you learn. So the time is now. Pick up a new skill and add value to your workspace. If this is of interest to you, feel free to reach out to them on Instagram and Facebook at We Are Inscape UAE. That is, We Are Inscape UAE. Today's guest is Hana Younes. With Irish and Syrian roots, Hana was raised between Northern Ireland and the UAE, specifically Abu Dhabi. She currently practices out of Dabbagh Architects and during that time has been part of multiple award-winning projects. From copper roofs to restoration work, Hana's exposure is truly diverse in the architecture scene over here. In today's episode, we talk about the ups and downs of architecture studio life, internships, the power of networking, getting that first job, and adding value to your studio. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you for tuning in again this week. We have with us a colleague of mine, or should I say an ex-alma mater? I don't know if that's what they call ex-students.
Yeah, I think that's what the term you'd use, or like a classmate, ex-classmate.
Classmate, batchmate.
Yeah, batchmate. Batchmate sounds better, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were like the first batch.
So our guest today and myself have battled through the war that is architecture school. Literally sleepless nights and horrible juries and all the other good stuff. So much coffee, like dear God, so much coffee.
An obscene amount of coffee. Obscene. We should have gotten shares in whatever the coffee shop was. Right. That business we should have.
Today's guest is Hana Younes.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Hana?
I'm good. I'm very nervous. This is kind of surreal for me. This is the first time anyone's invited me on a podcast, so thank you.
No problem. We'd love to have you again and again and again.
Maybe I'll get better at it. So we'll see.
Yeah, so little disclaimer for those of you guys listening and can't see Hana right now. She's hella nervous. Like super nervous.
Like understatement. Like it's an understatement. Just how nervous.
Okay, so before we jump into architecture, tell me a bit about yourself. Tell us what makes Hana Younes?
Oh, well, I guess my upbringing has been very, I wouldn't say strange, but interesting because of kind of, my background. My mom is from Ireland. My dad's from Syria. And there's a lot of similarities, but quite a lot of differences also culturally. So I guess it's kind of influenced me a bit.
Okay.
It's kind of fun, like East and West, kind of. So it's kind of given me a fun perspective on things sometimes.
And how does that work then? So you have like both cultures kind of going in parallel?
Yeah, well, as much as I can. I mean, it's kind of a tightrope walk for me because, I don't know, there's certain aspects where you're just like, oh, I'm really Irish in this sense, but I'm also really Syrian in this other sense, kind of.
Okay. How did did you ever have a creative side growing up or did you?
Oh, yeah. I love to draw. I think I used to piss my mom off. The amount of times
as we all did.
As we all did. And I was super quiet as a kid, like the kind of quiet where you wouldn't know I was even in the room until you turn around. I was there. But I
My
love
dad would
drawing.
always think that something bad is happening if the room is really quiet.
It's like Alan's quiet. What's going
It's
on?
like, what's happening?
Red flag. Yeah, I don't know. I just love drawing. Anything and everything. Anything that caught my eye, I was like, oh, that looks cool. I'm going to try and draw it.
So it was more still life, as in drawing what you see kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Always. And also, when you get to a certain age, you start doing a lot of your own drawings and comics and things like that.
Okay.
Which were not very good.
Fair enough.
But, that everyone goes through that phase, I think, when you're an artistic kid. There's always that I want to draw cartoons phase.
Right.
And also, I was one of those weird kids. You know how kids in their teens, they'd cut out, well, especially girls, clothes, pictures of models and stuff. I was the kid that whenever my mom brought home like a home design magazine, I was cutting out furniture. So instead of like Teen Vogue, I was cutting out like, I don't know, what would you call it?
Well,
Architectural Digest, but like a more layman version of Architectural Digest, like you'd get in the UK all the time.
Right. I mean, if I was a parent, like, that's a pretty clear sign as to what I should be doing.
It's like, something's wrong with my kid.
Furniture, really?
It's like, Mom, look at this chair. It's just like, what?
All right. So then that clearly, paves a path towards architecture and interior design.
Oh,
but
yeah.
why architecture over interior design? Any particular reason?
Even when I was deciding where I wanted to study for uni, it was it's a big decision. And I was really balancing between doing that interior or architecture. And it just really came down to the fact that I love detail-oriented things, like how things work, how things are made. I would go for hours down a rabbit hole reading about things that even wouldn't necessarily be my thing, but I thought was interesting at the time. And yeah, I just got really hooked on it. I was like, oh, how does that work? How do you do a window? How do you make that? How do you make a chair? Things like that. Right. Which was something that at my secondary school, or high school, as you'd call it, I was really encouraged in, because we had a design technology woodworking department in my secondary school. And my teacher there was, I think, hands down the biggest influence for me. He let me play with, well, not play, obviously, because we had things like a bandsaw and you'd cut your hand cut off. But even him and the assistant who kind of worked in the woodworking shop and knew everything there was to know about design technology, he really influenced me, and he really encouraged me to like play around with things and how to use a lathe, how you carve out a chair leg and stuff like that. Yeah. And when I did it for the first time, I was like, this is amazing. I love this. And it kind of just grew from there, from like making things out of wood to designing a house.
Right.
Also, I kind of feel like, and this isn't any shade to interior designers, I really value how interior designers shape a space, but I think from a building is like the skeleton, first and foremost, and then interior designers kind of improve on it and kind of give it the life that it needs, especially when it caters to a person.
Right.
So they have as much equal value as architecture.
Right.
But I find that architecture really shapes how you live, and
True.
It shapes your health. And that was something that I was really interested in and I wanted to be part of, which was why I kind of made that decision in the end. I was like, I think architecture is for me.
Okay. In all honesty, as much as I'd like to say that, oh, it was such a tough time and it was this and it was that and it was, all those horrible things, it was kind of fun.
It was. It's strange. I feel like this might be a weird thing to say, but I feel like architects are slightly masochistic. We love to suffer sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it as a field, I guess we kind of are,
We are, but it's like we always say it with pride, like I didn't sleep for 2 days.
Yeah, it's like, 2 days, dude, that's nothing, man. I got this other guy, he didn't sleep for like 3 days, and
or it's like I didn't even sleep since we started the semester. Like
right. So you graduate architecture school.
Yes.
I'm curious, whilst you were in architecture school, was there any particular field, any particular subject, course, which was of special interest to you, something which you looked forward to?
It's funny because I really loved it, but I'm actually not working in it. I would love to maybe one day, but I really loved the conservation course, historical conservation that we did. I forget his name. The professor was Khan. There was Sir Khan, but there was another guy that he taught us about Islamic architecture. Do you remember? Was he Brazilian or something? Really cool guy. He had a beard. I'll figure it out. I'll find out who he is.
Is he?
He was a guest professor. as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And there was Mr. Bukhash
Yeah.
as
That's
well.
who I was thinking of. Yeah.
There was two, but Mr. Bukhash as well was really interesting.
Right.
I really loved his.
I completely forget the other guy's name. Like I know who you're talking about, but
Yeah.
I can't get his name.
Picture him. We'll find out later. We'll fact check it. But yeah, he was really interesting as well. But yeah, those three professors, Dr. Sirkan, Dr. Bukhash, and our mystery professor.
Right.
I don't know. I just found it really intriguing, and I almost went on a course to Italy.
Okay.
To do like frescoes, restorations and stuff. But yeah, it just never happened.
Okay. Is that something you'd want to work on while you're here in Dubai?
The issue is that there's not that many historical buildings around.
Yeah.
As well.
Right.
I mean, actually, one of the projects we're working on right now involves historical restoration. So I'm always like,
all right, look at that worked out.
Looking over the shoulder at our consultant, like, what is that? That looks interesting.
That's cool.
Which we can talk about later, actually. With one of them.
Sure.
If you have any questions on it.
No, that sounds really cool.
Cool.
Because for me, it took me a lot. I mean, I didn't know in university that one thing. I kind of just like started working, and then it was only during work I realized that whenever that one thing came up, I'd be like, oh, let's do that.
No, was it?
And it's really boring. Like it's nothing to brag about. I mean, for me,
it's not boring for you.
It was energy efficiency for me.
Yes.
So whenever I could get a chance to do like HVAC calcs or like solar gain and just weird things with numbers. I don't like numbers. I don't know why I like that, but just to kind of like, I think for me it's kind of proving a thesis, wherein you can actually say definitively to some extent, whether this actually works or does not work or whatever it may be. So it's a very weird thing to like. Everyone I tell it to is kind of like, yeah, that's
relevant though. No, you shouldn't put down your interests.
So you graduate and tell us what the job search was like, because I'm sure we have a lot of students listening to us.
It was rapid. As soon as I graduated, I sat down and I was emailing like a crazy person.
Right.
I mean, well, first and foremost, I probably would not like what my portfolio looks like now. I need to sit down and dust it off and redo it.
It's good you bring that up, because I have a lot of students who come to me and they're like, professor, we don't know what to do with our, portfolio, and, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I keep telling them, I'm like, in all honesty, just do the best that you can right now, because whatever you do right now, 2 years later, you're going to look at it and be like, what was I thinking?
Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do.
Exactly.
As long as you're happy with it in the moment, it's good.
Exactly.
But later on, like when you're older, you're going to look back and be like, what is that?
Yeah, I mean, because I tell them that happens with me even now. Like if I look at something which I made like a year back, I'll be like, that spacing's a bit off and the font's a bit wonky here.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's bound to happen. So
like, why did I use Comic Sans? Why? For my presentation? Why?
Yeah. So I just tell them, I'm like, just go for it.
Yeah, of course.
So what was the response like to these millions of emails that went out?
Not millions. I wish. If I had done millions, who knows what would happen. I had been warned about this, but you don't really receive responses. I did actually receive a response once from a large firm. That was actually, I was shocked that they actually took the time to reply to me, which was really sweet. But yeah, for the most part, they don't get back to you.
What?
They don't. They'll only get back to you if they're interested. I mean, they don't even... Because you got to admit, we were quite naive when you graduate. You kind of expect, I can just walk into a job.
Into this office and they're going to be like, yes, please come work
with us.
We
love you.
Oh, awesome architect.
Please work with us. It's not that my dad said that there was that mentality before the crash. Like people were like, please come work with us.
Yeah,
here's all these benefits.
Yeah, I've heard stories of, like seniors, not from our university, obviously, but from another renowned university who shall remain unnamed
I wonder
for this
which
podcast in our neighboring emirate.
Narrowing the search.
No, but like guys out of there were like, these guys had like multiple offers in like fourth year.
Wow, that's amazing.
And this is like, obviously
wow,
when the boom was
before
happening.
they even graduated.
Yeah, I mean, of course, not not everyone in the batch. I mean, these are guys who are like top 10% of, their class. But even so, I mean, as a fresh grad to have, offers before you even apply. And these were named firms. And I know because a lot of people from that time, whoever survived the crash, actually still work in those firms.
Which says a lot about them.
Yeah. I mean, probably they saw the opportunity, they capitalized on it. And, I've found the whole job application thing I think there's a science to it.
Yes.
If I must be honest.
Yes.
Because I'm sure you'll agree. Now you're probably on the other side of
yeah.
the job application
Which
scene.
I have something in my head that I need to give as advice.
Right. So I completely understand when people don't get back to me now because I've been on their side too. And I know what it's like receiving like 200 portfolios in a day to review and go through. So,
I mean, in the beginning, I was like, yes, okay, I'm going to send this to my boss. And hopefully she'll get back to you guys. And then you get that kind of, you have to like one by one almost like disappoint someone. And it really hurts your heart, especially when you know where they're coming from.
Right.
And then after a while, you kind of just get like, oh my God, another one.
Yeah. I found the best way is I just become very mechanical about it.
Yes.
I just say without much emotion, I'm like, listen, it isn't really a good time. We just aren't hiring.
Yes.
I would ask you to send me your stuff, but in all honesty, it's just going to go onto a drive somewhere and no one's going to see it. However, if it does change, I definitely will get in touch with you.
Oh, yeah.
And I found that to be quite a good response for people reaching out.
Actually, one good piece of advice is if there is any particular local company that you're interested in working with, you should always follow their social because we ourselves, we post. If there's as soon as something is opened up, a position is open, we will post it immediately on our social and with the information, obviously, about what requirements there are.
I think that makes a lot of sense because I guess the people that you have on your socials are probably people who actually like your work.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I would also go to the extent of saying probably people who should already be knowing your work before they even walk in the door.
Yes. The amount of times I've gotten a generic email where they're like,
like, dear sir, madam,
and then
I would like to
they
work.
big up the firm, but you can tell from the language they don't even know who you are. You're just like,
Exactly. Which another really cool thing that I found is just taking the time out to find out who you're writing that email to.
Yes.
Because I remember the most funniest response I ever got was so I was reaching out to this, again, large 3-letter named firm who shall remain anonymous. But I knew exactly who I was reaching out to. Never met him in person, but knew about him, quite a personality over here in the region. So literally, like, for lack of a better word, stalked the guy, like socials, projects, interviews, everything, like knew everything about him, right? And kind of picked up on this one little thing which he just dropped, like a little nugget of information that he apparently liked these Belgian truffles from this one particular store, down in Jumeirah somewhere.
Nice.
And I thought, I'm like, okay, so I mean, I would like to receive something which I really like, as a gift or whatever. So I literally, I mean, this was when I was like in 6 months unemployed, like right out of college.
Yeah.
And literally went down, got a box of that, was like 50, 60 dirhams, and printed out a portfolio, got a nice bag, wrapped it in the bag, like wrote a little like name tag on it, said, dear so-and-so, really love your work, love your personality, would love to work for you under whatever project you see me fit for. Here's a bit of my work for you to consider. And that was literally it. And I left at the reception. I got a call back from his secretary before I left the building.
That's so cool.
Which I thought was kind of nuts. And I was like, well, that was pretty easy to do.
You just give us food. Give us food and we will be happy. When you say that we're going to start getting food to our offices.
I mean, long story short, I didn't really get employment there.
Yeah.
But I did get a long face-to-face conversation out of that with him.
Yeah.
Wherein he actually was like, that was really, really impressive. And the fact that you took so much time, to actually go through and get so specific with it.
Yes.
Shows your intent to me as an employer. Obviously, unfortunately, now, we're not really looking and, I mean, the same old stuff.
But you left a good impression.
Exactly. And as fate would have it, this is about 3 years later, who is to call me randomly one day than the same person.
Oh, wow.
And
Because he remembered you.
because he remembered me. And as fate would have it, at the time I was employed and I couldn't join,
Oh,
right? So I guess what I'm trying to tell, like the fresh grads listening to this, is that I know a lot of things seem like you're doing it in vain and you feel like you're not really getting anything out of it.
yes.
But relationships,
Yeah. And that's a good point, actually. This is something that I was scared of as a graduate as well. But networking is extremely important.
extremely, with a capital E
With a
and a capital Y.
E. And as someone who's an introvert, I was horrified of the idea of having to talk to strangers. But you kind of, like a muscle, if you exercise it. I mean, I'm still an introvert. I'm very introverted. But it's a muscle that if you exercise, you'll get more and more comfortable with it and you'll get better at it as well. And talking about employment stories, sort of coincidentally, that's how I got employed as well. Because if you recall, we went, I think it was a Cityscape event
Right.
with the university.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
And I actually, my boss was there representing, in case anyone doesn't know, my boss is the lovely Sumaya Dabbagh. And she's the currently is the current chair to the Gulf chapter for the RIBA, or Royal Institute of British Architects. And by some strange twist of fate, before I even applied to work, before I'd even graduated, I met her at Cityscape because she was there at the booth for RIBA representing, before she was even chair. I mean, she was a member at the time. I think she was on the committee.
Right.
I guess she remembered me because when I emailed them after I graduated, like a year or so after, we had a really nice conversation. But of course, I mean, as another point to note, don't expect employment straight away as well.
Exactly.
Because I actually interned first.
Right.
I was an intern. I think we graduated in June, didn't we?
Yeah.
I started working actually in August.
Right.
And it was a good few months. I think I didn't start officially working with them until October. So you got to be patient. You just got to work hard, prove your worth. As soon as you get your foot in the door, that's already a big step. But you got to make some concessions.
Right.
Concessions, sorry.
And I also think probably expectations. I think expectations need to be like super realistic once you get out of college, because I know that everyone always, I mean, as all of us did, especially if you went to college here in Dubai. I mean, you have literally, if I think like the top 5 biggest firms in the world have offices here.
Oh yeah, they
already.
do. Which is exciting as well.
Exactly.
They're
I
so
mean,
accessible.
so I can understand how a fresh grad would have that kind of expectation that, oh yeah, of course, like that's where I'm going to join. And it's not wrong to have that expectation, but to have a sense of realism, to that, to kind of understand, because I get so many applications for internships now who say that, I mean, obviously, whoever I've worked with in the past, I've tried to offer them paid internships, and most of them have been paid internships.
Yes.
And rightly so, at least I feel.
Yeah.
But there have been times when they haven't been paid.
Yes.
And all I've been able to tell them is that, listen, yes, it isn't paid, but what I can do is I can promise you that I'll give you like the most amount of exposure you can ever possibly get. I mean, I'm talking, I've taken interns to like royalty level meetings. I've taken them to like site and like a lot of funny, funky stuff which they would otherwise not do if they were just like a CAD monkey sitting in the office.
Exactly.
And at the end of it, I've had them turn around and say, oh, but what's that worth? If I'm not being paid, what's that worth? And I have a hard time kind of explaining that, because I think from their mindset, obviously, yes, what is that worth?
Yes.
But it's only later on you realize, oh, damn, that was like really, really cool. And it's really nice that I did that at that time.
Yes.
So I'm interested what you think about internships. How do you think it should be packaged to students?
We actually had this discussion amongst my coworkers, and I actually firmly believe interns should be paid, because I know that the experience level is nowhere near the amount of a professional, but
there's a lot of hand holding that has to happen as well.
Yes, but you're still contributing towards the business.
True.
You're still helping with the production of a product.
Absolutely.
And you should be paid to the reasonable amount, not equal to a professional, but to the reasonable amount with your experience and the level of work you're doing. I'm sure you heard about the controversy too with the Serpentine Pavilion this year.
Yeah.
The winner.
Yeah.
It was found that the interns that actually helped create the winning design were not being paid.
Right.
And it's quite funny. In response to that, they actually canceled any and all internships entirely. And I was like, okay, you could have done something really good with this, but instead you just canceled all opportunities for interns.
Right.
Which is kind of, I don't know, that left a bad taste in my mouth. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like in UK, this is a non-issue. This is something that legally you must pay your interns.
True.
I mean, I know there's some difficulties because you don't know if that person is going to be an asset or a burden when you first start, working with them, because there's a difference between seeing the portfolio and the work and having an interview and actually seeing them in the workplace and working. But you should consider it almost like an investment.
Exactly.
Or a leap of faith, almost. Yeah. And I'm happy that my boss actually took that with me.
Right.
And I really appreciated it. And I'm working there, so I'm happy.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, in my opinion, if you're contributing to the business and the product that's being produced, you must be paid.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good moment for us to take a quick break.
Yeah.
Maybe get us some more coffee, fuel up. Right. So cool. We'll be right back, guys, after this short break.
See you later.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode thus far. It makes us really, really proud that we can add value to your commute, your drive, your workout, your design time, whatever it is that you may be doing, and keep you inspired. Our inspiration and passion is fueled by the amazing team over at the Orange Design Group. The Orange Design Group, or ODG as they're affectionately known, is an award-winning boutique design firm specializing in bespoke, client-centric design solutions. They're based right here out of Dubai. What's cool with them is that under their umbrella, they offer an integrated design concept with architectural, specialist lighting, and home automation services. Their designs are super clean, as in super, super clean. They have a keen eye for detail, and their work has gone on to be featured in various media outlets, both locally and internationally. Their work has won multiple awards across various fields. Currently, they're working on delivering niche, residential, and cultural projects across the GCC. Their work is truly, truly, truly inspiring for any designer. You guys should definitely check them out. They're on LinkedIn and Instagram. The handles are at Orange Design Group. That is at Orange Design Group. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you guys are still here on the other side of the show. Hope you guys are still listening. Mm-hmm. If you are, thank you.
Yes.
We really appreciate that. So before the break, we were talking about the value of internships, the value of networking. I don't want to be that guy, and I really don't want to say that that's all it takes, because obviously you do have to be talented and you do have to be hardworking.
Yeah.
But there's just something about networking in this region. I guess it kind of just gets a foot in the door, if not open it.
Yeah, it does.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's very tough for introverts, but once you get into it, it really gives you that chance. It gives you more opportunities.
Right.
So you got to suck it up a bit. That sounds harsh, but yeah, I kind of say that to myself sometimes. I'm just like, just suck it up, go to the event, and you won't regret it.
True. I mean, I've not been to an event which I regretted.
No.
Thus far. I mean, there's always something. I guess if you're looking to regret something, you'll find one.
Yes.
But if you go with that kind of mindset, I think
you're not going to have a good time.
Pivoting back to where we started, the place where you work at right now is?
I work for Dabbagh Architects.
And was this one of those jobs which you got straight out of college, or something that you grew
actually,
into?
It's my first job and my current job. It's not common, I think, as well, right? Working that long.
It is quite rare. It is quite rare. I mean,
I think starting in from October, I will have been working there 6 years now.
6 years?
Yeah, that's nuts.
Dude, I don't know if people are married that long nowadays. 6 years. But wow, I mean, time.
Yeah, it's a testament to how much I like working there.
Yeah, because that's going to be my next thing. I mean, how does one actually sustain that for that long? And clearly, I mean, the work environment probably does a lot.
I think you may already know this, but I was very blessed to have my first project as the Dabbagh Archaeological Center, which
that is a really cool project.
Which we which we won quite a few awards for. I'm going to big up our company a little bit.
Little plug over there.
Little plug. So yeah, that was my very first professional project, was the Miliha Archaeological Center, which I'm going to just invite everyone to go visit because I love it.
And it's the most awesomest thing ever, of course.
Of course. But yeah, I think I have I kind of have a real love for it, an attachment to it because it was my first project.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, variety is the spice of life.
True.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I've enjoyed working there so much, because we work on everything. Offices, villas, of course. That's kind of the bread and butter of any project, any firm that works here, especially a small one. But we've worked on other things. I've done schools. I've done a museum. We're doing a museum right now. We've done hotel interior design as well. So I've kind of had the chance to wear many hats. Especially that's one of the benefits I find as well, working in a small firm too.
Right.
That kind of environment where you have the opportunity to wear many hats. I think and this is again no bad commentary to a large firm, but I feel like I wouldn't get that opportunity in a large firm. I'd be kind of working on CAD all day.
I think,
which is not me.
I think it's different. Well, as cliche a phrase as I can think, it's literally different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
I think, yes, there are definitely pros and cons in a small firm and pros and cons in a large firm.
Yeah.
There are some projects which, like it or not, a small firm just cannot do.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And if you want to be involved in those kind of projects, then you have to be in a large firm, and that means you have to be a smaller part to a much bigger wheel.
Yes.
And that's not the same thing. I mean, that's not anything wrong. It's just how, the organization works.
Yeah.
In comparison, a smaller firm probably has a much smaller wheel, and therefore your part becomes a lot bigger just by default.
Yeah. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that, because if you were to think about it, if you have an office of, say, 4 people, and those 4 people comprise even of, your owner and so on.
Yes.
If one person falls sick and one person goes on vacation, your office is down to 50% capacity overnight.
Yeah. The pressure's really felt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Which
probably not so much in a large firm.
No.
If, you have like 10 out of 100 employees.
Yes.
Who aren't there that day, you still have a workforce of 90 who can be,
that's true,
put together. So, yeah, I mean, there are pros and cons. I guess what's important is knowing which side you fall on and knowing which side you want to pursue.
Yes.
And kind of tailoring yourself and your skills towards that. Because like you said, a small firm probably has super high pressure. I mean, we both know, we've both been in small firms.
We've both been in small firms, so we've experienced it.
It's very ad hoc. It's very multiple projects at the same time.
Oh, yeah. I have juggled, I think, maximum 4 projects at the same time.
Wow.
Which was
That's
interesting.
pretty intense.
That was intense. Like, all in different stages, design,
right.
project management, even, as a team. I mean, not on my own. That would have been insane. But yeah, but I find that it was great character building and experience building, even though it was hell. Looking back on it now, I feel like, I really benefited from that.
I think a major advantage a small firm has is that, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not with you, but at least for me, it kind of exposes you to the business side of things as well. Yes. Kind of behind the curtains, which normally in a large firm would happen only in a very clandestine, C-suite kind of like meeting room.
Yep.
But just by the nature of a small office, you kind of become part of.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've met clients. I've sat in on meetings with clients, not on my own. I have done a couple of site visits with a client, which I really appreciated getting that experience to do, because it kind of is daunting.
Right.
I mean, some people like not being experiencing the client or visiting the client. Right. They just kind of like the input and then working with it. But it's interesting as well, getting to know the client, and it really helps you kind of get a feel for the design as well when you know them.
And I also feel you get a scale of the bigger picture, right?
Yes.
I mean, because you kind of understand why certain moves and certain decisions happen the way that they do.
Yes.
probably when you receive the input, like you said,
Yeah.
you can't really comprehend why it's happening. But then I guess if you know the bigger picture, you can understand that, yes, okay, so I have to delay this for XYZ to happen, and I have to push this for XYZ to
Yeah,
happen.
because you were part of the conversation.
Exactly.
Which is great. Sometimes some people like being just detached, input,
Right.
output.
Right.
But I find it interesting being there and being part of that decision-making process, even if I'm not contributing, but at least
Of course.
watching and listening.
No, there is definitely value in that for sure.
yeah.
For sure.
And I would encourage anyone who was a bit nervous about it, just if you're invited to sit on the meeting, go for it. Learn something from
Absolutely.
it.
Yes.
Great.
100% yes, all the time. Yes, I will go for that meeting.
Go for the meeting. Just don't talk. Just watch. Just don't talk. Unless you're invited to. I mean, there have been situations where I've been very involved in the package, the final package, and my knowledge is needed, which is amazing and scary at the same time, that you have to sit in and the client will ask you questions.
And you have to give answers which are
diplomatic sometimes.
Well, diplomatic, and at the same time, I've found clients who literally have like on the gun just turned around and be like, so when are you submitting? And I've been like, well, it's going to take some time. I have to review, this with the team. And
Yes.
and then it'll be another follow-up saying, fine, but when are you submitting? And then I kind of have to like glance over to like everyone and be like, 5 to 6 weeks from now.
Yeah. They tend to not ask me that question. They tend to ask my boss that question, because she's amazing at answering difficult questions.
That's what I struggle with, honestly, now, because when put under that gun to kind of, I mean, obviously just to kind of account for everyone's everything, because to do that quick mental math of, okay, do I have enough staff to do that, and do I have enough time to do this, but then what about the other ongoing work, and then okay, but then will that affect cash flow, and to do all that math is a little daunting for me at this stage. But I've seen people do it like right off the bat, and I've walked out of meetings thinking that, how are we ever going to do that? And that's an impractical timeline.
Oh yeah.
But then when they break it down, they're like, no, don't worry about it. I mean, we're just going to do this and this and this and this, and that's fine.
Yeah, I have my boss and my coworkers, actually. You get it from experience. I mean, you get the hang of it. You can able to calculate and give a good estimate. I would be really not comfortable making an estimate to a client, but they know their stuff and they know exactly what to do. But it's something, if you sit in those meetings, you'll gain that experience. And
true. I'm curious though. I mean, shifting topic a little bit more to design now.
Yeah.
What's your process like? Because I know that varies from person to person, but if, say, this is a brand new day, it's the start of the week, you just got a brief on your desk.
Yep.
What's the first few things that you would do once you've gone through the brief and you want to start the design? The very first thing, what's that? Okay,
first and foremost, we need to know any feedback from the client. I mean, knowing what they want brief-wise is great, but also we need to know exactly what their taste is, what they want. Thankfully, I mean, we work, as I told you outside the podcast, we're quite modern in design.
Right.
But it's just getting the form out. What we like to do in our office is we sit down and do brainstorming session to figure out, what inspires us, any projects that we think would be interesting, either in a floor plan to gain inspiration from. Really, as I said, the form. Know the site, visit the site.
Yeah.
Don't start designing without seeing the site. You need to know what's around you.
Right. That's something I had to learn the hard way. One of my first ever villas that I did, visited the site after we submitted a concept, which was, I know, don't judge me. Like, I hear people say, no.
Why? Why did you?
I was young and dumb and,
just, you're like, I can do this.
Yeah, so design this like super, cool glass facade, all north facing for that, nice north light and everything. And went to site and realized there was a freaking 10-story building, like right on the north facade.
Everyone, see your business. Oh God.
Yeah, it's just one of those things which, like even Google Earth didn't have like an updated map and I didn't know. And
You need to see the site.
Yeah, so it was so embarrassing, and we kind of had to like play it off and be like, yeah, we're gonna revisit the design. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you have to kind of, pardon my language, you kind of got to bullshit a little bit when you got to make a change. Point number 1, know your site.
Right.
Know it very well. I mean, we've done, the usual traffic studies.
Right.
Go there, experience the site. Is there a lot of traffic noise? What's the privacy like? Also, does the client want a lot of privacy, or do they care? Or, I mean, here it's a thing, of course.
Privacy is a thing, for sure.
Privacy is key here. Whether you're a local or you're not, you're European, a lot of people want privacy here. The environment, where's the best sun? Where's the wind direction coming from? Sometimes, like, what's the most common? Do you get a nice breeze coming if you want some really good spaces? Things like that. And
especially those indoor-outdoor kind of spaces.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the best view. Why would you want to put the most amount of windows in the opposite direction of the best view?
True.
It's like, oh, you have this gorgeous view.
Yeah.
But we're not putting any windows there. It's like, can't even think about it. I think that's something as well that we carried over from university that we made as a mistake. People always design this building. They're like, it's the best. And then you put it on the site and the professors tear you up because they're like, you did not look at the site. You didn't think about it.
Yeah. I remember this one jury wherein this one professor went, so you've got this brilliant like sky walkthrough, like all glass tunnel. And I think you know who I'm talking about, whose jury it was.
Yes.
If you're listening, I'm so sorry, because I know you know who you are.
We're sorry.
We're sorry. But like that stuck with me so hard because he was like, you've designed this brilliant, like the most well-designed glass skywalk that I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But you put it out like in 45 degrees of sun with no shade. Like, what's going to happen in that?
I broke into a sweat when he said that during the crit. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. So again, if you're listening, we're really sorry, but
it's a good learning experience.
It's a good learning experience. Yeah. I mean, we're still talking about it even now.
You can at least look back on it and laugh a little bit now.
Yeah. So, I mean, the site really is important, but especially here, because, it's a very extreme climate.
Yes.
Clearly. I mean,
this isn't the Mediterranean. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, this is like really extreme.
It's not forgiving here.
But having said that, I'm curious to know your insight because you have a background from Ireland as well, right?
Yes.
Have you worked on projects in Ireland?
Yeah, I have. I did we had the opportunity at secondary to do work shadowing.
Okay.
So we were allowed to go to we had to contact them ourselves as well.
Right.
You go to the profession that you want and you shadow them for a few weeks. Okay. And it helps you decide. And that's also what helped me decide, which by some stroke of luck, my neighbor was an architect. And he worked from home. So I used to go visit him, and he worked in AutoCAD purely, but he also had the old school drafting board too.
Sweet.
Like the huge one, which I was in love with. So I kind of did everything. I went on site. I did some design work for him.
Right.
I, on my own volition, reorganized his filing system because it was a mess. I'm sorry, sir. You probably won't be listening. Well, maybe I can email it to him and he can listen to it. But yeah, that's no shade to you, sir. I'm sorry.
Hannah's really sorry.
Mr. Gibson, I'm sorry.
She apologizes now.
But yeah, I totally reorganized his whole filing system because it was a mess. But that's just me. I didn't have to do that, but I felt like it was my duty to do that. But yeah, it was a fantastic experience, and it helped me decide.
But how extreme is the climate over there in comparison to here?
Because the UK in general Ireland in general is very wet. It rains constantly. And we have the opposite. You try to keep the heat out. Here in Ireland, we try to keep the heat in.
Right.
But it works both ways, with insulation and stuff. But yeah, there was really funny parallels actually, because we had a really good summer last year, but it was too hot. And you don't have ACs in the UK. So my mother was just freaking out. She's like, I've opened all the windows. We're roasting inside this house. She's like, I don't know what we're going to do because you don't have ACs there. You have radiators. So it was just really funny conversation. I was like, yeah, I got my AC on full blast here. And she's like, we don't have AC. But yeah, and I mean, also you have the regulations there are very different too, especially where I'm from in the north of Ireland. We have this thing called the Green Belt.
Okay.
And when it comes
What
to...
is, I mean, forgive my ignorance, but what is the green belt?
Well, as you know, Ireland is very lush.
Really?
In case you didn't know, Ireland is very lush. We have a lot of green. Some of it's natural, some of it's farmland. But it's not recent years, but for the longest time, we've worked hard to maintain that. We don't want it to become too urban. So it's actually extremely difficult to change the land use assignment from farmland or grazing land to a residential plot because they want to maintain that. So in a lot of situations...
Just out of curiosity though, for land that was zoned as farmland,
yeah.
if I own that land, can I not make a house for myself because I live on that land?
No, you can't.
So that's literally my house or somewhere else, and then this is just land that I found.
You couldn't, yeah. You wouldn't be able to change the land. Well, it depends where it is, but it's exceedingly difficult to change the land use now to residential if it's been assigned as farmland. And I think vice versa.
Okay.
Whereas I don't think that's an issue here. I mean, changing land use. I haven't experienced that here. I mean, we don't really have a lot of farmland in Dubai. It's a completely different setup in the UK. We have a lot of farmland.
Right.
But yeah, I had this conversation with Mr. Gibson, who I worked with for my work shadowing. Yeah, it's quite difficult. You have to apply and you'll get rejected. And there's not much you can do about it. You get rejected and that's it. You can't appeal.
Right.
You can't pay someone to change the land use.
Okay. So it's like a one-time thing, and it either works or it doesn't.
Yeah. It works. It doesn't work out.
That's an interesting way to govern. I mean...
Also, they're very conscious about energy consumption there, so you can't exactly, like you would hear, oh, here's my design. A whole wall is glass.
Right.
That's not going to fly in the UK all the time.
Okay.
Because they're really concerned now about, gas consumption, how well insulated your home is. They're trying to they're really conscious now about being sustainable. So designs like that won't always fly or be passed in the UK because of that.
Well,
you don't have
that's
as much
a breath
freedom.
of fresh air.
Yeah.
Quite literally, no pun intended.
You can't go crazy in the UK when it comes to design sometimes. Depends where you are, but I remember someone in the neighborhood wanted to do a whole wall made of window glass, and it looked beautiful. And I heard through the local grapevine that they had a lot of issues with that. They didn't end up doing it, but they had a lot of issues getting it approved because it's an issue there.
I think that's also a place where the community has a voice as well. I mean, like if the neighbors say no, then like that's a problem.
Yeah.
As compared to here, wherein anything goes.
They don't have any say. You don't have any say.
Well, I guess you could move out, but...
Yeah, you could. Be free. Be free to move out if you want. Can't do it there.
Right. Well, I mean, that brings us to an interesting segue. It's a question I like asking people.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that you could change about the field here in Dubai, because contextually, let's keep it relevant.
Yes.
Here in Dubai, if there's one thing you could change about the field, in general, anything, anywhere, can be, any part of the entire process, if you may. If there's one thing you could change or improve or better, what would it be?
Oh, that's tough. Well, I would ask you that, actually. It kind of give me something to work with, I guess. What, in your opinion, would you?
In my opinion, I think it would be a lot of client education.
Right.
Because a lot of times I find that clients kind of want the world, and rightly so, they should.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's wrong. But with the sense of consistency.
Yes.
I mean, you can't want classical columns with like a super modern table and then, just stuff that doesn't go together. So maybe some kind of education, maybe some kind of, like a walkthrough, maybe like a very, maybe firms who start specializing literally in just pre-concept.
Yeah.
So literally firms whose only job is to make briefs, like somebody who the client goes to and says, this is what all I want, and that gets refined down, and then, they have a final thing.
One thing actually, speaking from that, it's given me an idea of what I would choose. Thank you for that. Because I couldn't really pick. Because so many options. But I think for me, it would be the client being more knowledgeable when it comes to sustainability here.
True.
They're kind of
True,
like,
that's a good one
they're
too.
like, they want to order something, but it's coming from like an obscenely far away place.
Right.
When something that's maybe equally as good is available here, people try to encourage people to be more aware of their consumption of, their
Right.
carbon footprint and responsibility to the environment as well.
Right.
I mean, that's something actually that I would really like to be encouraged here. More local business, more local products, things that are made here. That's something that we're trying to do actually at work. We're always trying to source products that are locally made to try and minimize our carbon footprint. I mean, from the get-go, from design. And it would be really great if clients were more informed about it. Because sometimes they're just like, oh, but I want it from there.
Exactly.
And they're just like, because I want it from there. And they don't really think about the consequences sometimes.
Right.
And that's not their fault. It's just that they're not informed.
Right.
It'll be nice. I mean, we've had a couple clients that are really like in the know about that and are really conscious, which is refreshing. Really refreshing.
I think that's changing with time though.
Yes.
Even so much more nowadays, I feel, for like the younger generation who've like gone out and traveled. Mm-hmm. I think they kind of have a lot more self-awareness when
There
it
was a
comes
shift
to
in focus.
Yeah. Just simple things like plastic.
Yeah.
I've had clients who now don't want to drink out of plastic bottles,
Yes.
who now want like glass and water poured into glass kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there is definitely that shift there for sure.
I think there's a couple local businesses now are even like getting rid of their plastic straws and things like that. Like,
I feel like this is where I can be like, anyone in sustainable products, you need a shout out, let us know.
yes.
We're waiting for you.
And we're looking too, so if you want to
do get in touch.
Hit us up. It'll be really interesting, actually. I've met a couple that have been really fascinating, and I'm just waiting for the perfect project to introduce them to a client. It would be great.
True. True. Right. So we're now into the last segment of our show.
Ooh.
This is kind of the one that throws a lot of people off, but let's see how you do.
Oh no. Oh God.
Right. So it's basically a series of rapid fire questions, if you may, for lack of a better term.
Great.
We have not named this segment yet. We should come up with a name for it. I was thinking Charrette Roulette or something like that.
Charrette Roulette. Oh, that sounds good.
Right? Because, I mean, I don't know. Let's say it's a working title. Anyway, so
Hit me.
can't really think. Needs to be really quick.
Oh God.
All right. So we'll start off simple.
All right.
All right. Favorite project or architect? Or both?
Oh, okay. For the longest time, Dabbagh. I love Dabbagh, and even though I'm Muslim, I love the Church of Light. I don't know what it was, like seeing it for the first time, I had an emotional response to it, which really resonated with me. That design itself, I loved it. Yeah, so it kind of crossed religious boundaries there, but it's one of my favorite projects. I love it.
Cool. Favorite ambient or favorite music that you would listen to when designing?
Oh, my sister tends to say that I have multiple personality disorder because my iPod is very mixed. Actually, I've been in love with Spotify recently. Sorry, that's a bit of a plug, not intentional.
But we love you, Spotify.
We love Spotify. I'm so happy you guys came to the Emirates. But yeah, because they always recommend new music, which is great because I love music a lot. Live music, any kind. I'm kind of, I don't know, growing up in Abu Dhabi when there wasn't a lot of Western music available locally, I guess my brain was starved for it at the time, back in the 90s.
So this allows you to explore newer music? Is that it?
I guess my preference wasn't really formed early on, so I love a lot of different types of music. I listen to everything. Everything, it's kind of shocking sometimes. Like you'll have James Brown on my if you put my iPod in shuffle, you'd have like James Brown and then Marilyn Manson right after it. It's fun. But for work, yeah, I know, multiple personality disorder. It feels like that. But yeah, it depends. I love Muse. Muse has a special place in my heart. But sometimes when I really want to focus on detailed stuff, I love lo-fi.
Okay.
If you know what lo-fi is. It's not really got much words. It's just really chill, relaxing music. Beats. Yeah. Good beats. Yeah. Definitely good beats. And like a lo-fi radio channel. I'll just listen to that. It's very relaxing and it helps me get in the zone for when I'm working.
last question. If not an architect, what profession would you have loved to pursue?
Actually, it's quite funny. It was a toss-up between this and forensic pathology.
Wow, you'd be surprised. Like, that's a very common theme,
Is it?
which
Really?
is which is kind of scary.
Yeah. Can you tell I'm a fan of crime TV shows? Like, I love crime TV shows.
So, forensic science.
Forensic science,
Just to
basically.
confirm. Is it like those guys who have like the swab kits and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's either those guys or do you know Ducky from, I forget the show. He's this English guy. He basically, it's kind of morbid, actually. That's one of the reasons why my parents wouldn't allow me to study it. It's basically someone who, they get the victim and they study them to find out what happened.
What happened?
Yeah, cause of death and stuff. I actually found that quite fascinating. And
Interesting.
my parents actually thought I might go into medicine as well because I'm not squeamish around blood and stuff. So
Actually, that's very interesting because I can see why you would like conservation then. Because I mean,
like I said,
okay.
I'm very detail oriented, so that kind of
Yeah, the whole detail oriented thing, and then the fact that
the how and why.
the how and why. Yeah.
I'm
Wow,
very
that's-
fascinated by that. It was like there was 3 things I had wanted to be when I was little: archaeologist, and then as I got older, forensic pathologist, or an architect. And it ended up being architecture purely because my parents weren't comfortable with me being around corpses. They're like, no way, no how. But in any way, my love of design kind of overruled everything. So
Well, that brings me an end to my questions and the end of the show.
yes,
Well, if you guys have hung on for this long,
yeah, I hope
we-
it was interesting.
we
for
thank you.
guys.
We hope you learned something,
Yes.
or at least something we said caused you to think about something. I
Yeah.
think that's the best that we can hope for.
I hope we were useful or knowledgeable for you guys. At least you took something away from it, even if it's a small thing. That'd be
Right.
great.
Cool. So finally, Hannah, since I'm hoping we've inspired people,
Yeah.
if anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Well, you can, of course, if you want to contact me through work, my email is hana@dabbagharchitects.com. That's DABBAGH architects.com. Or you can contact me on my Instagram.
Well then, in conclusion, thank you very much, Hannah, for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. This was surreal that you guys wanted me to chat about design. It's cool. Thank you very much.
No problem. And for the rest of you guys, we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Peace.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to the complete episode. It means the world to us that you did. As you probably know, this episode, along with a host of many others, are available on all of your favorite streaming platforms. If this episode in any way added value to you, please subscribe to us and leave us a review. It really helps us get the show out there to a much larger audience. Feel free to share the episode with your friends, your colleagues, or anyone who may benefit from it. Meanwhile, if you'd like to get in touch with us, follow us on Instagram at aform.studio. That is at aform.studio, and send us a DM. That's it. It's that easy. All right, guys, this has been awesome, and we'll catch you guys next week.